This is Hymenolepis nana and Hymenolepis diminuta. So, Hymenolepis nana was first discovered by Theodor Maximilian Bilzar. He was a German physician and an important pioneer in the field of parasitology. So, he discovered a cestode worm, Hymenolepis nana, living in the small intestine of an Egyptian male via autopsy. So, Hymenolepiasis is the most common intestinal tapeworm infection of humans caused by the worm of family Cystoda, genus Hymenolepis, and species Nana. It's commonly known as the dwarf tapeworm. So, it's a cosmopolitan species, most common in temperate zones, and it's one of the most common and smallest cestodes infecting humans, especially the children. So the adults can go up to 15 to 45 millimeters in length and 1 millimeter in width. The scolex has 4 suckers and it has a short retractile stellum with a single row of hooks. The eggs measures 40 to 60 micrometers by 30 to 50 micrometer and is shaped oval or subspherical and smaller. Yan. So, the life cycle of your Hymenolepis nana has a dual pathway, the direct and your indirect pathway. So, with the direct cycle, ito yung ang host, they ingest the eggs, no? They ingest the eggs by contaminated food, water, or hands, no? And these eggs, after you ingest it, it will hatch in your duodenum. The liberated embryos, they penetrate your mucosal villi and they develop into your infective cysticercoid larvae. So after 4 to 5 days, yung larvae, they break out of the villi and they attach to the intestinal mucosa to develop into adults, no? So yan, may adults na in your ileal portion of your small intestine, and the eggs will be released through the genital atrium of the gravid proglatids. So, ayan, they will pass out in the stool, no? The gravid proglatids, they're the one releasing eggs, of course. They're the one that's being passed out in the stool. So, take note, autoinfection can occur if the eggs remain in the intestine, no? Kasi nauulit yung cycle. Next is your indirect pathway. Ito yung time na we accidentally ingest an infected arthropod host, like the rice and flour beetles of your Tenebrio species, and sometimes through fomite, water, or food contaminated with the larvae. So, no, sa katamakan din to ng human. The cystosarcoid larvae are released and will eventually develop into the adult tapeworms in the intestine of the host. So kasi 'di ba? No, we ang na-ingest natin in the indirect pathway is the cystosarcoid larvae. So, ayan. So, doon, they will be released and they will eventually develop into adult tapeworms in the intestine of the host. So, it takes 20 to 30 days from the time of the ingestion of the eggs to appear in the feces. So, eggs are optimally viable immediately after discharge from the bowel. So, autoinfection can occur through fecal oral route or within the small bowel. So, remember that. Yung autoinfection, they can occur through your fecal oral route pag damak ka, or not damak. Medyo stereotype, medyo judgmental, but basta you know the gist, no? You can get auto-infected through the fecal oral route. You still don't observe proper hygiene after all of those, or you can get auto-infection still if the eggs remain in the intestine. So, the symptoms of when you have the infection are generally produced because of the patient's immunological response to the parasite. So, lightworm burden is generally asymptomatic. So, itong mga immunological response na ito, you will understand more of this when you go through, when you, tawag yan, when you take the subject immunology, no? You will learn there why will your body have an immunological response to this parasite, and bakit yung pag-fight ng ating body mismo yun yung nakakakos ng symptoms sa atin, no? Yun yung nakakos ng pathological disease sa atin, yun yung nakakos ng mga clinical manifestations, yung mismong response ng immune system mo to the parasite, no? So, your clinical manifestation will include your intestinal inflammation, diarrhea, abdominal pain, anorexia, dizziness, weakness, loss of appetite, headache, itchy buttocks, and difficulty sleeping. So we diagnose this through direct fecal smear, and we treat this by praziquantel and niclosamide. But praziquantel is the DOC because it acts very rapidly against your H. nana. Now let's proceed to your Hymenolepis diminuta. So this is the common name of this is your rat tapeworm. They are commonly found in rodents, and rats and mice. Rarely human infection follows accidental ingestion of infected rat fleas. Human infection is asymptomatic. Accidental human infections lead to hymenolepiasis. So adults can go up to 60 centimeters in length, and the eggs are circular and they measure 60 to 80 micrometers in diameter. They have colorless embryophore that encloses the entire structure. And the scolex, they have 4 suckers, and you have to take note, they have a small rostellum bearing no hooks that protrudes from the anterior end of the scolex, no? I-compare mo dun sa H. nana. So the gravid proglottids, they are rectangular, measuring 1 millimeter by over 2 millimeter, and the mature segments contain one set of female and male reproductive organ. Genital pores are unilateral. So sac-like uterus, see that? A sac-like uterus filled with eggs. So, Hymenolepis diminuta, your infective stage is your cysticercoid larva, your diagnostic stage is your eggs, and your definitive host is your rats. Okay, your intermediate hosts are your beetles, your fleas, your cockroaches, your mealworms, and earwigs, and the most common intermediate hosts are grain beetles belonging to the genera Tribolium and Tenebrio. So, mode of transmission, it's the ingestion of cysticercoid larvae, and their natural habitat is your small intestine. So, ayan na, the life cycle. So, we start in number 1, no? The eggs of H. diminuta are passed out in the feces of the infected definitive host. That's your rodents or your humans. The mature eggs, they are ingested by an intermediate host, that's various arthropod adults or larvae, no? And the oncospheres are released from the eggs and they penetrate the intestinal wall of your host. Then these oncospheres will develop into a cysticercoid larvae. So again, your species from the genus Tribolium are a common intermediate host for H. diminuta. Then yung cysticercoid larvae na yun, they persist through the arthropod's morphogenesis to adulthood. So, H. diminuta infection is acquired by the mammalian host after ingestion of an intermediate host carrying the cysticercoid larva. Again, your H. diminuta. No? We acquire the definitive host, no, acquires the tawag niyan. They acquire the infection, no, by ingestion of an intermediate host carrying the cysticercoid larvae, no. So humans can be accidentally infected through the ingestion of insects, no, in pre-cooked mga pagkain, no, na dinadapuan or basta ma-accidentally mo by some other reason na ingest mo yung mga insects na yon containing and those insects have become intermediate hosts, no. So you if humans ingested those, no, we are accidentally infected by this infection. So after ingestion, the tissue of the infected arthropod is digested, releasing the cysticercoid larvae in your stomach and intestine. So, ayun na, yung scolex, nag-a-attach naman sila doon sa yung gastrointestinal wall. No? They attach to your small intestine wall using the 4 suckers on their scolex. And then, nagmamature yung parasite, no? It occurs within 20 days. And the adult worms can reach an average of 30 centimeters in length. So, that's the average. But they can go up till 60 centimeters, no, from the previous slide. So, the eggs will be released in the small intestine from gravid proglotis. And yun yung nagdi-disintegrate again after breaking off from the adult worms. So, ayan. So, yung mga gravid proglotids, yun naman yun nga, nagdi-disintegrate sila. So, yung eggs na-expel into the environment in the mammalion's host feces. Mm-hmm. So, accidental human infections occur resulting in Hymenolepis. The disease is a type of helminthiasis which is classified as a neglected tropical disease. So, the highest number recorded in a human is 19 worms. And human infection is just usually light. So, human infection results from eating foods such as dried fruits and pre-cooked breakfast cereals in which the infected grain insects, no, your intermediate hosts, are present. Persons infected with H. diminuta usually present with mild symptoms including your abdominal pain, loss of appetite, nasal pruritus, diarrhea, flatulence, irritable behavior, small gut irritation, weight loss, anal pruritus. So, for demography, so human infection occurs worldwide but is more prevalent in poor countries with rat infestation. So, prevention and control, we do rodents control, elimination of the insects, protection of food, no, especially your pre-cooked cereals, and sanitary disposal of human waste. So we diagnose this by the identification of eggs from the stool. And at times, the whole worm is expelled and the scolex may be used as the aid in diagnosis because no, the scolex will really tell us a lot, no? And concentration techniques and repeated examination will increase the likelihood of detecting light infections because, as you can recall, with H. diminuta, no, usually in humans, it's just usually light infections. Okay, thank you. That's for your Hymenolepis nana and Hymenolepis diminuta.